we didn't figure out everything. I'm happy to have you here, Tommy. Welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome, Tony. Welcome here. Thank you so much for your time and commitment for the session that we're having today. For those who may not know me, I'm Marie, one of the lead member of La Tech Africaine. Today, we are going to be having an amazing session called In the Founder Seats. And this session for us are the moment for where we try to have honest conversations, but also a little bit talked about, building, talking about the founder journey when it comes to building their startups. Now, we are very excited to have you here. Tony, you know it already. We are a big fan of your work, but also a big fan of your startup, pretty much, right? Um, my first question for you is, from where are you joining us from? Tony, if you can hear me, you let us know. All right. So we will wait until Tony has a better connection. In the meantime, I will give you a little bit more information. Pretty much just Tony, take a minute, see how you can fix any audio issue that you may have. In the meantime, let me introduce pretty much the session to those who are listening in. So like I was saying, we are very excited to have all of you here. This is part of our back to school series, pretty much, where we try to explore anything that is linked to the reality of entrepreneurship. And this afternoon session is going to give us an authentic look, a little bit of what it takes to properly build a tech foundation, focusing on the real reality of challenges that tech founders really go through. And of course, hopefully we can also learn a lot from Tony today. I'm Marie. For those who may not know me, I am your host for this afternoon. As a tech investor, most importantly, as an early stage tech investor, I'm really deeply involved in anything that is early stage tech, community related, conversation mostly when it comes to leading them, but also making sure that we somehow, somewhere bring the innovation to the front center, right? So I also managed to have the privilege to really get to know the founders like Tony, to get to know the startups, the project, challenge that they may come across, but also sometimes the market in which they are thinking to launch their venture, right? So it's like we always say, it's really hard to be able to build a tech startup, but with the right tools, the right principles, but also the right expertise, we usually end up having successful story like one of Tony's here. So we are thrilled to have Tony Knowles. If you can hear me, Tony, please let me know. Say hello and tell us a little bit from where you're joining the session.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you so much for having me. I think it's been an amazing experience. I'm Tony and I'm joining from Lagos, Nigeria, though I base in the UK now, but I'm currently joining from Lagos, Nigeria.
Excellent, excellent. Welcome, Tony, and it's amazing having you here. For those who may not know Tony, Tony Hose is the CEO and co-founder of Niteon, which is actually a company that is a forefront of changing, I will always say that, right? The African export, with, again, AI-powered solutions. Tony have been involved in improving this solution for years now, I will say pretty much. And with his intensive experience and pretty much anything that is manufacturing related and fintech related, Tony has managed to really build a strong foundation when it comes to Niteon. So I'm really hoping that as we hoped to tackle the African challenges when it comes to the African market, solutions like Tony can then pretty much just showcase what it takes to become a tech founder as him, pretty much, right? So under his leadership, we've seen Tony involved. I met Tony over the last 3.5 years now, I think, pretty much from the idea on paper to a prototype to a proper company now. I've seen Niteon change pretty much from a pitch deck of 20 pages to a 10 page, and now there's even to one pager, pretty much when it comes to that. So I am aware of Tony's capability, skills, but most importantly, expertise when it comes to manufacturing in Africa. And I'm just excited to have this conversation with him today. So for those who are joining us, people, please join us in the chat if you may have questions. Let us know from where you're joining us from. Pretty much, if you're new here, please follow the new channel of La Tech Africaine, a parent organization of Noah Diaspora. Pretty much, we are excited to welcome you to this new setting, new session. We're still figuring out everything. So bear with us, be patient, like always. All right. And you can always reach out to us if you have any questions of any suggestions in terms of topics and section that you may want to see here. Okay, but let's go to our back to school Sari, which is the founder in the hot seats. So Tony, today you are joining us pretty much from London, right? Can you tell us a little bit of fun facts about you before we start this very serious session? Go ahead.
Okay, so a fun fact about me is that I am a very good swimmer. So for therapy reasons, I like to submerge myself on the water. So I usually swim a lot. So I would say if I wasn't doing this, I probably maybe would have competed at the Olympics as a professional swimmer. So yes, fun fact about me is that I'm actually a very good swimmer and I enjoy swimming a lot.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. Then you already know my next question, right? Like we have to a little bit always ask what has inspired you to launch Niteon, right? Like what sparked the idea of your startup for the first time and what motivated to take the risk to entrepreneurship, right? Like, can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, all right. So funny story. I think I kind of take my inspiration from my environment. So as a founder in the Nigerian space, I grew up with a very interesting background. So my grandfather used to be one of Nigeria's leading exporters of cocoa from Nigeria to the UK. And so I saw some of the challenges that he faced, challenges such as documentation, quality check, logistics, even access to capital was a big problem. But that was just like the very onset. So it didn't really dawn on me that this was like a big problem until I traveled to the UK to do my master's. And then I worked at Google for 2 years. Then I realized, oh, there's a lot of problem on the other side. So the international market also experience the same problem when it comes to buying from Africa. There's a lot of trade fraud. There's a lot of what I ordered, not getting exactly what they ordered. So there's been a lot of disconnect when it comes to that side. So this kind of just inspired me to be like, okay, do you know what? I have this background experience in the export space. I probably got involved in export from like the age 8. So like 8, 9, I started running around like the warehouse and then going on the other side and see what it's like to be on the buying side. I decided, okay, do you know what? We should basically solve this problem for the African market. So working at Google for 2 years and coming back to start a manufacturing company was okay. This is the big problem that the entire market is facing. So the international market don't have trust for African products. African manufacturers are not meeting demand. So there is a lot of disconnect. And I said, you know what, this is a big problem that will change the entire continent. And I believe we had the capacity to solve it. So first of all, my grandfather, then my experience in international markets, then my first startup as well as a farmer. Those were the inspirations that kind of guided me to this point.
Amazing, amazing. I love this. I love this. At least I keep telling that I keep saying that to you. At least in a massive challenge, at least a huge challenge, pretty much to embrace. It's just crazy, but it's an amazing venture. But also just seeing and watching you grow is just unbelievable. You know, it's unbelievable, right? And I love talking about these early days. Let's just go back to the first steps, the navigating early days of your startups, right? So what are some of the toughest challenge that you have faced, yeah, right, when you first started, and how did you manage to navigate them? I think I have a lot of that when it comes to the list, but I would love to see which one was the toughest for you.
Yeah. So to a lot of people, a lot of people don't understand that this is actually my second startup. So I have first-hand experience what it means to build a startup and have it fail. So a lot of founders don't understand that. My first startup was in manufacturing, and I didn't come with a lot of experience. So going into that, there was a lot of learning in that first startup. So it was difficult finding, understanding the market, difficult in getting customers, difficult in knowing if what you're even doing is going to be a big solution. So there's this whole risk of, quitting your job at Google to build a startup. It's like people ask you, why are you doing? Why are you going back to Nigeria to build a startup when you already have like a very successful career at Google? So it's like, the risk involved. Plus, I think the personal doubts that you have to go through as a founder, like, are you actually doing it? Are you doing the right thing? Are you thinking about this the right way? Are you sure this is even going to work? Is this going to be your doom? So those were like the initial challenges I faced, with my first startup. So I personally know what it is like to build something and have it not scale. And then at some point we had to pivot it, and then we started this new solution. So I think my first challenge has to go around, are you certain this product is needed in the market? How big is the problem? How are you certain you can serve this market? What's the competition like? What if somebody big comes in and take you out? So the fear that comes with starting. But at the end of the day, we kind of just, at a point, you're like, do you know what? If you're going to go, you have to go all in. So I had to quit my job and said, I was going to do this full time, and whatever be the outcome, I was going to go with that. So yes, the
Oh,
fear based.
that's amazing. That's amazing. When it comes to what I have also seen when it comes to you is that you know how to turn challenges into opportunities. You've done it countless times, right? Could you maybe share an example again? I know we've said that, but can you maybe share like one of the challenge that you had faced and you had to turn that into an opportunity for your startup? If we have to pick one challenge, what would that be?
Okay, so I believe the biggest challenge that I faced early on was, my first startup was in manufacturing. So we were helping cocoa manufacturers in Ghana refine their cocoa to powder form, which was, more than the raw cocoa. So, but at some point, COVID happened, and because of COVID happened, we kind of had to shut down the entire business, and the business failed. Like at some point, there was no business going on. There was a lot of restrictions. Even access to market was a problem. So we eventually took that company that was a manufacturing company in cocoa and pivoted the company to a neobank solution that is providing credit to manufacturers. So we went from taking a problem in, taking one solution that was focused on manufacturing, to now pivoting it to a neobank. So currently, we are now the largest neobank providers focused on manufacturers in Nigeria, providing credit to manufacturing, helping them with access to license and some other things as well. So we've taken a problem that failed, a business that failed, and turned it into a neobank solely for manufacturing or manufacturers in the African space, which is currently a big deal, and it's currently one of the products that we sell to the market.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I love that. I love that. I am looking at my next question, and I mean, we talked about this, right? As an investor, as an early stage investor, I'm usually receiving a lot of decks, a lot of pitch deck, and I'm usually part of a lot of pitch sessions as well. Pretty much, I think by now I should just become an expert when it comes to pitch deck. Anyway.
Exactly.
you know but most importantly, when I have a startup pitching the solution, I'm always looking at, okay, do they have the perfect team to build the solution, right? Would they be able to really create this vision of theirs until maybe the next 5 or 10 years? And for that, they need a core team. They need a team to build this tech solution, right? So when it comes to building your core team, for example, how did you go about, again, right, assembling your initial team? Pretty much what quality were the most important for you when you were selecting your early team members?
Yeah, so for us, I think I did something very early on. I made sure that anyone who was coming to work for Niteon or who was going to be a part of the Niteon must be somebody who believes in the dream, who believes in the idea of building sustainability around the emerging market. You must first of all believe what we are doing, because at times it's very easy to find someone who is an expert, but they don't necessarily believe in what you're doing. And when it comes to creating ideas, it becomes a problem for them because they are good at their job, but they're not great at, believing in what you're doing. So for us, I made sure that the core team members believe in what we're doing. And everybody who is a part of the core team members for Niteon were handpicked by me. Like, I didn't have an agency to go out and look for people that I know that had great, amazing talent. I basically went out and sought people who had the same ideology around what we believe in, people who had grits, people who knew that building the startup is difficult, and they were not just there for just the pay or there for the short term, but they understood the reward is very massive. So I think people who had grits was something that I looked at very well. Then thirdly would be that for me, I know where my strength lies. So I basically look for people who complemented my strength. So like for me, I'm a business founder. I have a very intensive business background with several from Lagos Business School to Oxford Business, so I have a very business background. My co-founder, on the other hand, she's in full-time back-end AI machine learning. So we kind of complement each other, and that kind of makes it easy for us to be like, okay, do you know what? These are the skills we have as individuals, and then what other talents we need? Operations, marketing. These were some other things. So we basically looked for talents that believed in what we were doing, had the drive we had as well. But also people who complemented our skills and were not afraid to voice out. We were looking for people who were lions in their field. People who were not afraid to say, "Oh, I don't think this idea that you're bringing is right. I think we should go this way." So we created a policy. People from day one could walk up to me and be like, "Boss, I think this idea that you're trying to," even though we were co-founders, you could come to us and challenge some of the ideas that we had. So there was no hierarchy in the early days of Niteon. We all worked as a team and we worked as equals very early on. And that kind of allowed us, now we are more or less a 30, 35 team members, and it has allowed us to transition that kind of culture down to every other person. So people can challenge ideas and be like, okay, I have a better idea than what you guys did. And it has allowed us to move really, really fast. Plus, I am very big on not too much meetings or not too much excessive conversation. So if we believe something works, go ahead. Like, we are very, very fast on our feet. So we don't spend a lot of time moving like a battleship. We basically do like a boat system. If we believe this is working, we tilt and then we try to make it work. We find something that works and then we just keep rolling with it. So we don't take a lot of, that bureaucracy or battleship effect, that takes a long time before something is iterated. And I think it helped us to really scale fast, because we've had competitors in the market for the last 3 years. And also, we were fantastic, but we basically understood the market, and we understood what it means to keep changing with the market, because we're in a very fast moving market. So we understood what it means to keep constantly change with the market, constantly adapt, take feedback, and work on that. We were not necessarily very thought was the best way to do it. And we took advice from external people. So yes, it helped us to be very flexible as we started off from day one.
Perfect. I love that. I love that. I love that. And we will continue on that conversation on that part of highs and lows as well, right? Being an entrepreneur is not an easy life. Okay, I've never met an entrepreneur who has told me that, oh, it's so easy to be an entrepreneur. I've done it many times, countless times. I know already what to do next, right? It's just hard life. It's a hard life. It's a hard decision as well. And sometimes you have to choose to either survive or take a risk majority of the time. And that's the life of an entrepreneur, regardless of where they are based in the world. But a second layer when you are an entrepreneur and you are from African descent or you are based in Africa, right? Because there comes a second layer of challenges that you have to deal with, you have to handle. And sometimes you become a student first of life, you become a professional, and then later on you decide to go to become an entrepreneur, which for me is just like, why will you go and embrace one of the biggest challenge again on the continent when you already have so much to deal with? Okay, but that's the reality of many of entrepreneurs here out there, especially based in Africa. Entrepreneurs who are either in the early stage looking for the right expertise, the right network, but also to just have the right tools on how to navigate the whole entrepreneurship journey. Then on top of that, if they are tech founder, that's a third layer of challenge and problems, pretty much, right? So if you don't have a cardiac arrest that is strong enough, a heart that can beat like strong enough in your heart, it's going to make it impossible for you to survive it. And yet somehow, somewhere, amazing entrepreneur like yourself choose to go on this journey, right? You choose to really take the risk. You choose to embrace challenges, to solve them for millions of people out there. And that on its own is pretty much just is chapeau, is incredible, right? So as you go through these ups and downs, right? How do you maintain your focus? And most importantly, how do you stay motivated, during these difficult times? What is your secret?
Okay, so I think this is a very interesting one. And I would say that, yes, I totally agree. Being a founder on its own, anywhere across the world, is difficult. But then being a founder in the African space is a lot more difficult because there aren't as much infrastructure in place to be able to ride on or enough connectivity or data. There's a whole lot that you have to build yourself, and then when you're a tech founder, it's like you said, like a triple threat of extra problem that you're taking upon. So I think um, so one of the biggest motivators for me personally, I I have been on both sides. I know what it feels like to just look at the problem and feel like, okay, I will just close a blind eye to it. A lot of people do that a lot. But when you see that you have the capacity to solve this problem and you can actually do something about it, something inside of you doesn't just get satisfied from working a 9 to 5 or get satisfied from, you know, doing like the regular job. Because inside of you, you know that okay, you can actually do this and solve this problem, and you for some reason you're just on that you're not at ease at all around that, and so at times when you look at this the way things are done and how it can be done better, you basically feel like okay, you can do something about it. But for me, one of my biggest motivators is seeing how my own grandfather went through that problem and seeing so many businesses around be facing that same problem, seeing how even friends I have in the US and the UK have issues dealing with that. So when you look at how big the market is, how big the problem is, and you have experienced it, because I personally lost my first startup because of this problem. So with that much drive, you don't feel like okay, I should just give up and then pack up and go. And then a lot of people are looking up to you. Like for me, I see myself as a rebel, if I can say that. I come from a family where they would have preferred me to just do a 9 to 5, go and maybe work, in a US company, a UK company, because that's where I come from. They've seen that, but I rebelled a lot. And when I started up, a lot of people didn't necessarily believe in the idea that this can actually work. And so there is a bigger zeal for you to like do things and achieve them, knowing that a lot of people are like, okay, if you actually solve this problem, you are going to put food on a lot of millions of people's table. You're going to, make the world a better place when it comes to global hunger. So we looked at the problem, and it wasn't like as if we were are wrong for doing that, but we are facing like an African problem. So for me, when I saw how big the problem was and how much lives it could affect, there is no way I would live my life and say I lived the last 100 years and I didn't try to solve this problem for the continent. So I think the life that this would affect, the way to make the continent a much different place, is something. Plus, the idea of leaving a legacy behind, knowing that you came and you did something in this world bigger than yourself, I think is a bigger drive to kind of just want to keep going and keep drawing motivation. So my personal motivation comes from those who I look up to, those who have done it in the past, the millions of lives across Africa that this would affect, plus how this would affect my life as an individual and how this would change the ideas of building something from scratch as a person. So yes, it's I'm motivated by a lot of things, people, places, and personal growth.
Absolutely. And that's a bigger mission. That's definitely a bigger mission. Thank you so much for this advice, but also for these tips, Tony. I can imagine founders listening to us say, yeah, yeah, Mary, fine. Of Tony and you, of course, Tony startup has picked up and, he's out there building, raising, having this amazing connection. Okay, all right. So I am here. I'm still figuring out what to build next. And let's not forget how to get at least my first check, right? Because the concern of every founder is, how do I secure my first check, right? How do I get my first fundraising? How do I make sure that people believe in my idea and wants to invest in me and wants to take a risk with my idea and maybe take a risk with my team, right? So let's talk a little bit quickly about securing funding, right? What was your experience like when you first saw investment, right? And what advice do you have for founders who are currently, going in the process of fundraising? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I think the first time we spoke, that was between me and you. I think the first time we spoke, I had said, oh, I was raising $1 million. I felt, oh, I would go ahead and then just raise $1 million. Then someone would just out there be like, oh, I believe in what you're doing, and I'll give it back. So, but that's not the way it works in reality. I think that was just some fantasy idea I was rolling with very early on. And I think over the years, I've come to realize that investors are humans like us founders. These are hard earned money that they've earned, and so there's a level of commitment they need to see from your own side as a founder before anyone is going to write you a check. So I tell founders that before you ask someone to write a check for you, someone to ask yourself, how much have you really invested in this startup? Because it's easy for you to say, oh, I have an idea and expect money from someone, but it doesn't work like that in the real world. There's a level of sacrifice that must come from you, and you must have gotten the business a particular level. And it goes, okay, even I think it's unfair for founders to feel like, oh, I heard of this company in Silicon Valley that raised 500,000 off an idea, but you would not understand that those founders have something that you don't. They work with a system that already exists. They have a network that exists for them. So you as a founder, you need to understand that it's not the same thing. Africa is not Silicon Valley. We need to separate that ideology that whatever works in Silicon Valley works in Africa. No, it doesn't. So when it comes to building in Africa, you must build to a level. You must get to a point whereby you've done something for yourself, to a level you've seen a little bit of traction. Somebody must say, oh, I believe this problem you're solving is this problem for me. And I want to, even if it's one customer, you may not have millions of traction, but even if somebody said, oh, I believe in your solution and I want to do something, it shows a level of validation, which is why I think at that early stage, we now pushed from going for funding to achieving product market fit, knowing that these were the customers that wanted our product. Even if it means we were working off an Excel spreadsheet or we were working off just something that because I tell people the first MVP we built, we were the ones that were still adding product on the platform. We'll be up all night adding customers' product by ourselves because customers could not add products by themselves. So the first MVP was very minimum. And to tell you how crazy it was, the first 3 months of building my new startup, I think I mentioned I drove Uber for 3 months to be able to raise initial funding that we needed to build the MVP because I had just lost everything in my first startup. So building the second one, I said, you know what, we're going to put in all this. So imagine driving Uber for 3 months just to be able to provide the initial money we needed to set up the website, have the domain registered, have a few of the initial things done. So yes, that's something I believe. And for us, I believe once you pass through that stage, the second stage is look for an ecosystem or a community. It helps you to grow faster. You cannot move in isolation because a lot of times founders think, oh, this journey is alone, like probably they're on their own, and a lot of people don't understand what they're going through. So join a community or a network of founders that believe, that have the same ideology of what you're doing. And to make it easier, opportunities will be shared, and your first check may not be a $1 million check like I thought first pay, but it may be a simple $2,000 or $5,000 to just take you to the next step. And people should understand that that's how you show that you are actually passionate about what you're doing, with how much you can do with very little. So
Yeah.
I think the first thing we did was that I think we joined the community. I think it was off Clubhouse then, and that
Yeah.
was how we started. We joined from Clubhouse, and then joining like the Deny Diaspora Network was an opportunity to now meet other founders, see their challenges, learn from other founders. So that network allowed me to be like, okay, I should do things this way and not this way. So learning on the go from other founders kind of puts you at an advantage because now you have, let's say, 40 or 30 other people who are on the same pace as you are, who understand what you're doing, and you feed off their own energy, you feed off their network. Yeah. And then there's opportunity for collaboration. So you meet other founders, you can actually, rather than pay some big company, you can leverage their technology for logistics, for baby payment, for escrow, for whatever it is that you need, and that makes it easier for you. So that was like the first thing I did. So with that, we then started applying to accelerators. The accelerators are more open to early stage founders. So then you apply to accelerators, and then they kind of help you get that market valuation because you're doing a 1 month or 3 weeks or 2 weeks or maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month program with the accelerator, and then they are now saying, okay, this is what works. They're helping you, like they're bringing in so much expertise that you are now growing really fast. Now, after you do the accelerator program, obviously they have a level of investors that are early stage investors that belong to those accelerator networks, and they will simply do introduction for you. Most accelerators will give you a 10,000, 30,000, 40,000 check, and they will still do introductions for you, maybe through their demo day or through direct introduction. And you would simply go from, just being like an MVP or an idea, or maybe building like a simple product, to now having an accelerator backing you, to now having investors from these accelerators backing, and then you need to network a lot. So I think for me, the steps is building your solution as an individual, getting it to a particular level, joining a community, belonging to an accelerator or some sort of program, then getting early stage investors, and then from that you kind of just keep going, and then it's like a roller coaster, just keeps going, and you just keep hitting, so I think that's the process for me. So that helped us a lot. Yeah. So network as well plays a very big role for you when you're building in the African space.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Tony. That is amazing. I would love for us to turn a little bit into idea stage at idea pivoting, right? Pretty much. Founders are usually in love of the solution. I mean, when it comes to the solution, they defend that solution. They've seen the vision, okay, where the solution is, where it's going to be, and what it will look like 20 years from now, right? The issue that I usually see that early stage founders have is the idea of starting smaller and being able to pivot and adapt to customer feedback, user cases, and understand that even though they may love the solution, they understand the engineering of that solution. At the end of the day, the people like myself are the people who will be using the solution pretty much. So listening to your first base customers, adapting, improving, pivoting. I think we talked for months about pivoting, you and I, right? So now let's talk about pivoting, pivoting with intention. Okay, so point did you decide that it was time to pivot your business? And what steps, did you effectively took to make sure that you still maintain your company vision, but also core values? Like, how did you go about that?
Okay, so the very early stage of Niteon, we were trying to sell everything and anything. So we were just trying to be like, oh, we were the Alibaba of Africa, and that was what we were trying to do. But the truth was that that wasn't what our customers using
Let's
the
say,
effort that we had on the
Tony,
road.
Tony, if you can hear
So
me,
because of
you were
we were
breaking.
running very thin, we were doing so okay, okay.
You are breaking. Can you maybe restart? I was not able to catch up your first phrases.
Okay. Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was saying the very early stage of night we, we were trying to do a lot of things. We were all over the place trying to like get all products across on board. So it was like a bit of when you're doing too much, you are doing very little. And so at some point, we're basically trying to be a general African product solution, but that wasn't the way to go about it. So when we started talking to customers, I think from day one, we knew that talking to customers rather than building isolation would be a very good idea. You know, sometimes founders can just be in their room or in their house, just building and building, and you're not talking to customers, and then you launch, you spend months building the solution, and then you bring it to the market and there's no customer who needs because you build something that nobody wants. So most times it's always advisable that as you're building, go out there. Founders usually believe in a lot of digital, but meanwhile, you know, in the very early stage of building, you need to be very, you know, hands-on. You need to go out there and people that you feel like are your customers, speak to them, get their feedback on what they think about your solution, and get like an honest feedback. Don't sell the solution to them. Just tell them what they feel, what are their problems, and then you can take the problems that they have to now build your solution. So it helps you a lot when you know the problem you want to solve before you solve it. Don't assume at the back of your mind that this is a problem that they have. And then if you're solving a problem, you can basically be an SME, you know, solve a small problem with a small community. But if you're going this the route of being a tech founder, you must make sure that that problem is big enough that it's able to sustain, you know, the company's growth over a long time. You must be solving something that is big enough. So I think pivoting was something that came off customer feedback for us. And then when we started, we're taking customer feedback. So we decided to just reduce our product offering and focus on agriculture, fashion, which is fabrics, and then and as well as mineral resources. So limiting our product line to just 3 verticals allowed us to now grow really fast because it means that we were problem alone. And that single problem gave us a lot of your pivoting. Always be open to the idea of this solution works, but this may not be the exact way the market wants it. The market may wants it a different way than what you had planned on. And always be open to the idea of changing, you know, the solution. So despite the end goal remains the same, but the way you're going about the solution is get basically as top of customer feedback. So we learned that like the very hard way because we had spent months trying to solve so many problems that we had to now come back and pivot. And you played a very pivotal role for us because we saw that once we go laser focus on what we were doing, that would actually help us to scale really, really fast as a company. So yes, customer feedback as well as watching market trends, so customer feedback, market trends, as well as the idea of what works. So don't build a solution that somebody else has built something better. Always make sure to always be building something that is better than what already exists. Don't build a solution that there's already a solution that is better than yours out there. There's no need building something that is lesser. So yeah, so those were like some of the things that we took as feedback as we pivoted a lot.
Yeah.
Pivoted a whole lot at the start of very early on.
That is amazing. That's amazing. As a founder, you are born to make mistakes, right? If you are not making mistake, you are not building right. Okay, that's what I keep saying, and I will keep saying that. Reflecting on your journey, Tony, right? Is there a mistake of challenge that you face that has taught you a valuable lesson? And how did you bounce back from it? Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so very early on, I think one of the major mistakes that we made very early on at the company was that we were, I think, yes, I think this was one of the things that we pivoted from. We were very big on what we believed was the problem rather than actually looking out for market problems. So I think that was a very big mistake. We spent a lot of time believing that this our solution was the actual solution. Meanwhile, the market wanted something different. So, and for us, it kind of gave us like we kind of dragged for a lot of money. We were basically dragging for a lot of money because we were pushing something that the market did not want as a company, and that kind of allowed us to be very very slow. Plus, we were I said this a lot. Founders are big on the idea of when you raise people comparing themselves to like, oh, this person raised 250. Oh, TechCrunch just announced this company raised 2 million. And so we spend a lot of time internalizing, the idea of being a successful founder rather than actually seeing that, oh, it's not always like that. So we basically this, but that's not what matters the most. Because at times you are so caught in the glitz and glamour of what you're seeing on the media that you are not fully aware that some of these companies are not even doing as well as you think they are doing. And some of all those things are just facade, they're not so you should be very focused and be very, very clear headed on what you want to solve and what you want to do. That no matter the distraction or no matter the way you feel, you know exactly what you want to achieve at the startup. So yes, for me, that's something that. Plus, I always say it's a very popular phrase. Fire fast and hire slow. So if you bring somebody on board who is not adding value to your startup, don't be afraid. Don't get too emotionally involved that you don't want to fire somebody who isn't adding any value. So always make sure that your team members are actually doing what they say. Because eventually you may have a CMO that is not doing anything for you and you are just wasting time and you have no idea. He's not coming up with ideas that actually work. So make sure that your core team members are actually doing something that solves the problem and not just being too emotional around it. So, hire slow and fire very fast as you keep growing and grow
Absolutely.
fast.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. Let's talk about balancing life and startup demands. Sometimes I think it's even blurry, right? Those two. I don't think that they are two separate when it comes to early stage founders. I think it's just one thing. Okay. Both your personal life and startups become the same thing pretty much. So how have you managed to balance the demand of running a tech startups with your personal life? And do you have any tips for maintaining that balance for new founders or founders who are currently building or founders who are currently struggling between, the balancing the personal life and the startup demands of the company?
Okay. Well, if there's any founder out there that doesn't have some sort of mental breakdown at this point, I don't think I don't think it's easy to balance because at some point you lose yourself in the idea of what you're building. And it's like a child that you don't want to see it die, or you don't want to see it like, just so it's like your own child. And so it's very difficult to balance like your mental health. It's very difficult to balance like personal life from, and believe me, to be honest, if you are going to build a solution that will see the test of time, you will definitely make a lot of sacrifices. So it's not possible for you not to sacrifice. If you feel you wouldn't make any sacrifice, for you to build a solution. I don't think it's possible. It may be possible in a different market, but from my own personal experience, building in the African space, you have to sacrifice a lot. So I think balancing your work life and then also balancing your mental health comes from being, like I said, being in a space where you have other founders who are going through the same problem that you're going through, and they kind of just allow you to feel a sense of you are not doing this alone. And so for me, what I try to do personally, no matter, in as much as I have to work like round the clock, 24/7, sometimes I have to work till late at night. I usually do something where I have like a 1 to 6 ratio, which is in 7 days in a week, I must take out one day to kind of just internalize how I feel. I may just say, okay, this week it's on a Wednesday. I can say, okay, this week it's on a Tuesday, maybe on a Wednesday. But I basically take one week. I take like an entire day, just one day in a week to be like, okay, take a deep breath, relax, because it's a long journey. At times, founders forget that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You're going to be doing this for the next 5, 7 years. And so it's not a sprint. So you need to always remember to take a breath once in a while and then recharge for the rest of the journey, because that's the only way you can go to the start. So yeah, so basically being someone I want to say with a lot of founders. And funny enough, founders always have a lot of founders events. So always use those founders events as an avenue to kind of just go out and meet other founders, hang out at founders meet and create, hang out at founders event. And it's also an opportunity to kind of relax away from working all the time, you're networking. I believe it goes hand in hand, because when you are not building your startup, you're building your network, because it goes hand in hand. So as you're building your startup, you're building your network. So you use events as an avenue to kind of build a network and kind of take a breather from always working around the clock to do it. So yeah, it's difficult. I wouldn't lie, especially very early on, but always make sure to balance that. And I advise founders to make sure that they are very conscious of their team members' mental health, making sure that when people are working, there is a safe environment, there's a safe culture for them to kind of just, even if they're experiencing burnout, they can express how they're feeling, and you can kind of make it a very friendly environment for them. So always make sure that people are not going through situations and you are just all work, work, work. Make it a very safe environment for their mental health as well as their well-being, and they will give you their best as you keep growing.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we stay on advice, on this type of advice for founders, right? In your case, what is the one piece of advice that you wish someone has given you or had given you when when you just starting out, right? Like what would have been that advice?
Okay, so one advice that I recently got that was probably like it, and I think this advice correlates to something that you gave me very early on, was as a founder, you need to be certain that if you're going to do this, you're going to do this for the long term. And so get to a point in your mind where okay, I'm doing this and I want this to succeed. And don't be all over the place. So I think for me, very early on, which is something that I got from you, I think very early on as a founder, I was trying to be like all over the place. But you need to understand that even you as a founder, the advice I would give is make sure that if you're doing this from day one, make sure you're focusing on revenue, even if it's small, something to sustain you from day one. So I think for us, even if you're growing at the start, make sure that from day one there's a level of revenue coming in, even if the profit isn't much, but at least the solution is sustaining you as a founder. Because believe me, there are days where you would be running your startup and you would go like you basically your runway would dry out. You wouldn't have funds for anything. And that's like how most startups just close up and fail. And we've seen that even for startups that have raised billions of dollars, they would still eventually run out of their runway and eventually close out. So raising funds doesn't necessarily mean the success of the startup, but being able to generate revenue internally from day one would help you a lot. Even if it's small, even if it's $1 every day, even if it's $10 a week, that small revenue is going to play a very big role for you in the long term. So yes, I think that's something that you entered us at Niteon from day one, and it kind of correlates with what I recently got, which is founders should be very wary of who they bring on board as investors. Always know that you are building a solution and investors are interested to be a part of that solution because of the value that you bring. Never be too in a hurry to give out equity and dilute yourself out of your own solution. At the end of the day, you end up being like diluted, and then you can kick you out of your own solution, and it can be very depressing. I recently had a friend who just lost his startup because of it got overly diluted. So founders need to have that level of confidence that if you're going out to seek investors, you are also of importance to investors because they basically need to grow their funds. So don't be too keen on external funds because eventually external funds will run out no matter how much you raise, but always be focused on internal funding and it will help you grow as a startup because you may raise, may not raise, you may need an extra few years to raise. So don't be too keen on external funding and you will do very well. For us, we are keeping a lot of our equity as a startup because from day one, we were generating revenue. From day one, we knew what we wanted to do and we're not giving out equity. So now when investors come to approach us, we are the ones who give them our terms. We don't necessarily succumb to their own terms or their own ideology. So yeah, that kind of gives us the edge to actually go far as a startup.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is amazing, Tony. I'm just happy. I'm a proud mama here, so I'm very happy about this. Now, let's talk a little bit about the future of startups, right? So, what trends do you foresee in the startup ecosystem on the next few years, and how do you plan to adapt that when it comes to your business to stay ahead of the game? And Tony, you let me know when you're back because you're frozen and I can hear you. Okay, so I think we've lost Tony for a minute. Let's give Tony another minute for him to join us. We're having some connection issue here, pretty much. So for those who are listening in, you are listening to La Tech Africaine. We are having our amazing session called In the Founder Seats, Honest Talks on Building Startups. And these conversations happen with real founders building real solution for the African market, and they usually build local while thinking global, right? So Tony, if you're back, just let me know and I can answer you my next question to you. Can you hear me? Tony, you back? I think you're back, but you're still frozen. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we are. We're
Yes,
back.
I am.
Perfect.
Can
Perfect.
you hear
Yes, I can hear
me?
you.
Yes, I can.
Yes, I was saying before you cut off, I was saying that I'm a proud mama just to see how much grow you've done and you continue to do as well. And this is just amazing. And I was talking about the future of startups, right? I was because you are well aware of the trends that you see in your startup ecosystem and pretty much just in your industry as well. I've seen you adapt as well and pivot your solution when it comes to that. So when it comes to the next few years in your industry, right? How do you plan to adapt your business and continue to stay ahead of the game when it comes to Niteon?
Okay, so I believe at this point, we recently achieved a milestone of being Nigeria's third largest digital export solution, and which was, very, very amazing for us. We are
Congratulations.
barely years, we are barely 2 years plus in the industry, and we are currently the third largest, which kind of validates how fast we are growing and validates how we are growing on the spot and how we are kind of just moving on as we go. So yeah, so we believe over the next couple of years, for us, the goal is to be the African Trade Center, to be the one solution that serves the African market when it comes to agriculture, fashion, and also commodity product, which is mineral resources. So over the next couple of years, we know that there's going to be expansion across probably 20 or 30 African countries, and we are helping those countries expand to the US, UK, Europe, and Asian market. Recently, we just acquired a company in Pakistan because we are looking towards the South Asian market. So we recently acquired a company in Pakistan because over the last 2 years, we focused on the US and the UK market. But going into 2025, we are looking at the Asian market, South Asian market and then the rest of Europe, as a new market for us. So yes, over the next couple of years, we would be a major player for products coming out of the continent. It would basically be the Alibaba of Africa, it would basically be the Amazon of Africa, where we basically now, push a majority of products going out of Africa to the rest of the world. That also would now allow us to now build a kind of sustainability around production, because we are very big on combating global hunger. We are very big on, how production on the continent is affecting CO2 emissions and other things like that. So we basically, with that level, we're able to, incentivize production that kind of, limits CO2 emissions, that help with production and packaging, how we are affecting the climate, or the world in general. Then also global hunger, because over the next 30 years, the population of the world is going to increase. And I'm of the opinion that Africa is the last frontier for food production as well as, mineral resources. So we need to build a kind of supply chain solution where the rest of the world has access to these mineral resources or this production capacity on the continent. And we are the channel that makes that possible, so that we can prevent global hunger, prevent, a different, basically provide global, solutions for the rest of the world. So that's where we are. And yes, so that's the long-term goal, be able to serve the continent in a larger scale and become a major player, compete with the likes of Alibaba and Amazon on that level. About that, we are very big on technology. We are very, very big on technology. And we are currently one of the solutions on the continent, or the first African B2B market that is implementing AI solution for voice commands, speech-to-speech, text-to-text, and speech-to-text. So we built Kunte. Kunte is our own version of Alexa, and we are building Kunte in-house to be able to serve, or change the way international market works. Meaning, next time you want to shop on any platform across the world using our API or using our solution, you could simply just use your voice and do the entire transaction, and you will be fine. That with voice command and voice automated, and we are bringing this technology to the rest of the world. So Africa shouldn't be the planet, or Africa shouldn't be the continent for just taking in technology, but we should be the continent for also building new technology and taking it to the rest of the world. So that's something that we are very big on: the technology, our impact on sustainability, as well as creating jobs for a massive number of individuals across the continent.
Absolutely, absolutely. Congratulations on that, Tony, and amen to everything. Seriously, I'm so excited, but so proud as well to see you continue to grow. Like I keep saying, it is just amazing. People don't know from where we came from. We came from far, so it's just amazing to see how much growth you've done in the last couple of years and how much you continue to grow as well. So reflecting on your personal journey, because we are almost at the end of this session, people. We will see you next time here with another amazing founder. But let's focus on Tony. So if you want information about Tony on your YouTube channel, we have all his links when it comes to his profile on LinkedIn. If you would like to connect with him, you would like to send them a DM. If you would like to know a little bit more about the solution and his startups, you have his website as well there. So subscribe just to make sure that you use his solution when ordering something. And if you want some links here and there, you will find everything about his bio, but also more information about the Tech Africaine and our upcoming sessions as well. So Tony, on this personal reflection, right, like of this venture of yours that you've been through, it wasn't easy, but you're here. Okay, you are here. You are here. Okay, so if you could go back and change one thing in your entrepreneurial journey, right? What will it be, and why?
Okay, so if I had to change one thing going back, I should have not doubted myself as much as I did starting. At the very early stage of starting, I went through like a whole lot of doubt. If I had known that yes, it would eventually work, and this is how I would have not doubted, because I mean, it was obvious from day one that this was a big problem. So I should have not troubled myself as much as I did, very early on. And if I had to change one thing aside from that, I think another thing I would basically change would be, starting small very early on. We're dreaming too big, and we're not ready for that. We're basically trying to do too much very early on, but starting very small and finding your sweet spot. I tell people that the major reason why Money Points is one of Africa's largest growing fintech solutions is because they majorly just focused on POS providing. Or if you look at OPay, OPay is like one of Nigeria's largest and Africa's biggest payment. OPay didn't do anything exceptional. All they did was focus on the speed of transaction. So just the fact that they are faster than every other solution by 2 minutes. Let's say if other solution will take 2 minutes for you to get notified of your transaction, it takes them 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It's all the difference to them. So people should at times, focus on those little things that really, really matter and be very good at it, so good at it that nobody can compete with you at those very little things. And it will make the difference. Those were the things that I probably would have changed very early on, rather than being all over the place, doing too much. So yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You definitely know.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Tony. We just come out at the end of this session. Before I close our amazing session, is there anything else that you will want to leave us with, or is there any upcoming news besides Conte solution that you have added so far to your existing startup? Is it any news that is out there that we should know about, or just like what powerful message would you like to leave us with, especially for the new founders who are listening and who are trying to learn as much as they can?
All right, awesome. So for me as a founder, I know what it's like to start and not have the right company. So I would first of all say, if you're a founder, follow the link and then join the Noah Diaspora Network, or join the network, because that's where founders will leverage off each other. I think that's one of the biggest things I would say. And for me personally, we recently are working on something amazing. So over the next couple of months, or going into very early next month, we would launch something called Niteon Capital. And Niteon Capital is a solution that provides credit to manufacturers. So if you are a business that is into manufacturing and you're looking for access to credit, we are now providing that solution. We would handle the supply chain and credit provision. And we are currently working on a multi-million naira storage facility that is currently being built in Nigeria. It's supposed to be a world standard storage facility that we are building. It's going to be a 3,000 capacity storage facility to be able to allow businesses who don't have storage space or don't have warehouses to be able to leverage our storage space providing. So it's a mega project that we are doing. And we want, if you're on the call and you're a business, you're a tech business, or you're a business for manufacturing, we are basically open to seeing how we can partner with you and taking. And I'm open. I'm always doing introductions for founders. So yeah, we can definitely connect, and I'm willing to introduce you to some of the amazing VCs that have backed us over the couple of years, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tony, for your time commitment to the session. We have managed to finish it on time as well. I'm very excited about that. Thank you for everyone listening in. And for most importantly, thank you for anyone who has managed to join us this afternoon in the founder seats, on the stocks on building startups. Okay, it has been an incredible and insightful session filled with valuable lessons. Tony, thank you so much. But honestly, I'm also quite grateful with the honest reflection on your entrepreneurial journey, pretty much, right? A special thank you to you, for sharing your story with such openness, authenticity as well, but most importantly, sharing your experience from navigating challenges to celebrating success. Okay, it has truly resonated with, with the reality of what it is and what it takes to become an entrepreneur, but also to be a tech founder as well. Okay, so thank you to all participants who are out there listening again. We hope that you are living this afternoon with, perspective, but also actionable insight that will somehow help you apply on your own venture as well. Okay. Again, remember, the road to success is not easy, okay? But building right with the right tool, the right principle, somehow, somewhere will make sure that you happen to have a successful startup as well, okay? So we encourage you to stay connected with us. Check the links. Okay, send us a message if you want to be part of the WhatsApp group that we have as a founder. Feel free to reach out to us. Let's continue the conversation. Okay, and if you have any questions, and like I said before, any thoughts or even suggestions that you may have when it comes to topic, just reach out to us and let us know pretty much. Okay, and hopefully we will then share our upcoming events and more to come as well as we continue to build this amazing ecosystem for entrepreneurs like you. Once again, Tony, thank you for being here. Okay. And I wish you all the best. And I can't wait for us to connect again outside the platform and to catch up on the latest as well. Okay. So thank you all out there. Have an amazing afternoon. And I look forward to connecting again with you guys. Thank you, Tony. Bye-bye. Bye, Tony.